What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. We're back again with the fourth set of GARP challenges. So we've already made videos on the previous three sets of GARP challenges, 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you go ahead and check them out if you guys haven't done so already. But as I said, in today's video, we're going through challenges 5 to 8 on GARP Challenge 4. Now, there is an additional extra challenge here on the fourth set of GARP challenges, which is the Shanks Island. I will be doing that in a separate video because 5 to 8 is already going to be a pretty long video. So I'll upload another video later on within the next couple of days about the new Shanks Island as well. But this one is going to be kind of tricky, honestly. I actually found this very, very tricky. Obviously, the teams that I am using are very heavily pay to play. So I know a lot of people complain about that, but this is literally this is the definition of endgame content right here with the GARP challenges. They're not really meant to be beaten by free-to-play teams in any way, shape, or form, even though there are probably some teams that could probably do it. I know you could probably do a zombie-based team with relatively free-to-play characters who could probably do it. But anyways, that's not what I'm about. I don't really want to do or want to try and result in using a zombie team. If I can beat it with a normal team, I'm going to beat it with a normal team. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. So now moving on to the GARP challenges, this is the 5th challenge in the 4th set of GARP challenge, and this is where you'll have to take on Cipolla at Eni's lobby. Once again, another Cipolla related one. I know that there was a couple of GARP challenge sets ago that we did actually take on all of CP9, and once again, we have to do it again. So on the 3rd stage is going to be, what's his name? Fukuro and Kumadori, and you can see that they have 3 turns of Rainbow Shield % damage reduction. So ensuring that you have a way to get around that is going to be very useful, especially because Fukuro does have a 15-hit combo barrier for a couple of turns or a few turns. So you want to make sure that you can get rid of that Rainbow Shield % damage reduction so that you can, deal normal damage towards these characters, especially with that barrier. Obviously, these GARP challenges get more difficult as they progress, so this one is nowhere near as difficult as some of the ones towards the end. So you definitely have a little bit of leeway if you don't KO the enemy at the right time, so it's not really too bad. Stage 4 here, we have a little bit of a turn where you can stall, get your specials back if you do need to, or just depending on what type of characters you are using. But once again, we're using V2 Akainu just because he's very useful for the GARP challenges. Pretty much every single video that I make about GARP challenge, I always say that V2 Akainu is really, really good for these, just because of that 6 perfect hit with his captain effect. But next we have Khalifa. So with Khalifa, you get attack down and also paralysis for a few turns. This is where Coliseum NL is very good because he can remove both of those debuffs that you get given on stage 5. So I would highly suggest to bring Coliseum NL if you do have him, and you should have him because he's one of the better Coliseum units in the game. Very, very useful unit to have. Floor 6 is going to be against Kaku and Jabra, and with this one you get 1.5 times chain lock for a few turns, as well as the fact that they are delay immune, so you can still reduce their defense, you can still poison them and such, but you cannot delay them. So obviously bringing someone to remove the chain lock, or just having some sort of team that can bypass the chain lock altogether, is going to be very, very good. Now moving on to the last stage is going to be against the final boss, Lucci. Now he does have some mobs around him, and he does buff defense for quite a few turns. So this is why 6+ Jinbei is really good, because he's actually really good for removing the blue shield defense on the final stage, as well as removing the Rainbow Shield % damage reduction all the way back on the 3rd stage against Fukuro and Kumadori. So this is why I would suggest bringing Jinbei, because he is so versatile in this specific GARP challenge. So we can use him, and we can use Elisabello to completely destroy the mobs around him, and then from that we can activate our attack boosting and all boosting specials, and from there we can take down Lucci on the 5th stage of the GARP challenge set 4. So now we move on to the 6th dungeon in GARP Challenge Set 4, and with this one we are back at the Corridor Coliseum with a whole bunch of the different characters within Dressrosa. So the first main boss that you're going to have to take on is going to be Cavendish on stage 3, and Cavendish is pretty simple. All he does is give you a full board of block orbs, so as long as you have a character that can change those block orbs into matching, you're going to be in good stead. I believe he actually locks the orbs as well, so yeah, definitely changing those block orbs into matching and then taking down Cavendish on that first turn is really good, because then you can carry matching orbs into the next room against the next boss. With the team I am using here, you can see I'm using V2 Katakuri, because he's just really awesome with his special ability. Basically, his special alone just KOs rooms, which is just amazing. But you see, we took a long time stalling to make sure we got enough damage output for his special ability when we eventually activate it. So that is very important. You do have to really keep an eye out on not only your health and make sure you don't die, but make sure you are tanking enough damage with V2 Katakuri, and you are able to do that reasonably well with this team. So as you can see here, he does give us a full board of block orbs, and Cavendish, the actual special ability of this rare recruit Cavendish, my bad, is the one that locks the orbs, of course. And once we do take down him, we move on to stage 4, which is against Don Chin Jiao. Don Chin Jiao has a 98 turn rainbow shield % damage reduction, though it's not really that significant. Like, with this team, we still are able to go ahead and take it all down. Something else I actually didn't mention, I completely forgot to mention with this particular GARP challenge, is that all shooter characters get their attack reduced significantly. So I would suggest not to bring shooter characters. You can see I do bring the 5+ Usopp because of the delay that he can provide. But it's definitely not a requirement. You could definitely replace him with anything else. He is useful to have, but you know, you could definitely replace him with anything else, honestly. But he's just nice for this particular stage against Diamante and Jesus Burgess. With this stage, there is a 3-turn defense up on the enemy side of the field, and also there is an end of turn damage buff on the enemy side of the field, so you will be taking a little bit of damage at the end of each turn. And at this time, we are able to activate the Golden Pound Usopp, or 5+ Usopp special ability, to just take our time with this dungeon, with this particular stage, so that we don't take too much damage, and we're only really taking the damage from the end of turn damage hit from the enemy. We have the Arlong here, which actually is able to remove the blue shield defense, which is very nice, as well as giving an orb boost to our slasher characters. And we can also use the special ability of the ship, the Megalo ship, to lock our matching orbs for the following turn. Definitely not a requirement to use this ship, but it actually helped out a lot. So if you do have the Megalo ship, I probably would suggest running it with V2 Katakuri. Just enables you to take a little bit more damage because of that little bit of damage reduction that it can provide. So if an enemy does a lot of damage to you, you are able to just reduce that just a little bit, and you know, that little bit of reduction that you can get from the enemy might actually save you in that room, so you can tank just a little bit of extra damage for his special ability. The next stage is Bartolomeo. This one, you can see that he has a barrier. Both Rebecca and Barto have an HP barrier. There is a 10-turn attack up buff as well, so you do have to take note of that as well. And also, when you kill Barto, he does 20,000 damage to your team. So again, you gotta make sure that you have enough HP to tank that hit after you kill him. And then the final boss stage is Lucci. Lucci's kind of annoying because he does lots of like really annoying things. He like reduces the cooldowns of your bottom row. He will special bind your characters in the middle row. He does a lot of really annoying things, but your captains are untouched. So this is where we can use our Katakuri, hit it perfect to break through his perfect barrier, and we are good to go with the special ability, of course. But that is how I beat the 6th dungeon on GARP Challenge Set 4. Now we move on to the 7th dungeon in GARP Challenge Set 4. This one was pretty tricky, honestly. This one was a little bit tricky, and as you can see, we are using double Luffy and Law once again. Luffy and Law, the absolute madman. But with this particular dungeon, the first main boss is going to be on stage 3. Of course, with these GARP challenges, make sure to stall as much as you possibly can on the first couple of stages. Typically, there's no bosses on stages 1 and 2, and you want to make sure you can kill those penguins, if at all possible, to get that cooldown reduction, which is going to help you out a lot. With this team, we also have Barto and Cavendish, and we also have the Ivankov and Bon Clay characters. Those guys are pretty important as they give us a lot of turns of stall. One particular stage, when we get to it, we're able to basically infinitely stall on that dungeon, on that specific stage of the dungeon, and with that, we're actually able to like fully charge Katakuri's special damage, which is really crazy. But yeah, you can literally infinite stall with this team on one of the stages, which is so good. But here we have the first of these bosses, which is against Peckhams and Tamago. Tamago, you can see for 3 turns, or for 2 turns, they actually have a full damage immunity. But of course, when you switch with Luffy and Law, they do have the ability to bypass defensive effects, which is why we're able to kill Peckham's right there. And then we can take the rest of the time here to just stall on Tamago, get a little bit of health back, and stall for our specials and such. So that actually works out really, really well. And they also put a buff or a debuff on your team where meat orbs appear less often on your team for 99 plus turns, basically for the rest of your run. So yeah, you got to be careful and make sure you have a team that can actually provide some sort of healing or significant damage reduction. Otherwise, you will not be able to stall. You won't be able to stall. So having Barto and Cavendish is very, very important. And of course, you know, the more HP you have, the more healing you get from Barto and Cavendish, which is really, really nice. The next stage here on stage 4 is going to be against Vito and Gotti. Both of them have about 1 million HP. You get 3 turns of burn as well, so you know, you're going to be very, very careful about that, which is why we have Treasure Map Nami, because she is able to remove that burn, and we use her a little bit later on as well. She's just a really, really nice unit to have. She removes a lot of different debuffs. And you can see they also have a 1-hit perfect barrier. This is a good opportunity as well to stall if you can. And after the 3rd turn, you will go ahead and get another bit of paralysis and chain lock for 3 turns. And that's what happens if Vito is still alive. If Gotti is still alive, he'll burn you for 3 turns after turn 3. So basically, they just do the debuffs on their preemptive attack again on the 3rd turn, which is very, very annoying actually. Also, in this video, whenever I do mass stalling, I typically cut a lot of it out, but, you know, you guys can pretty much piece together how the stalling actually works. But the next one here is stage 5 against Capone. Capone has 2.2 million HP. He will go ahead and bring out 5 different mobs, and they each have about 200,000 HP, so they're kind of tanky, and you can see that they all have a combo hit barrier. This is where we can use the special ability of the Law, because Law does damage through barriers towards all enemies, which is really good. And also, when we did switch, he now does go through barriers. So we can go ahead and use the Trafalgar Law to bypass the barriers and KO Capone on the 1st turn, because Capone is very annoying. You can see that Capone does have a 1-hit int barrier. You need to hit him with an int orb before you break down his barrier, and guaranteeing an int orb in the middle of a fight is kind of tricky, unless if you're bringing a character to, you know, shuffle your orbs in a very certain way, or to just give you a matching orb to an int character. So because we aren't doing that, we're just going to be utilizing the switch effect of Luffy and Law, and that's actually good enough to go through the barriers and KO Capone, which is really, really nice. There are a couple different ways around this particular stage. You could still use like Trafalgar Law, the version 1 Trafalgar Law special, which enables other specials to bypass barriers. Or what you can do is you can use the special ability of Treasure Map Jack, which will do 2 million guaranteed damage towards Capone because there are 6 enemies on the field. But if you do that, he will still have 200,000 damage left. So you will still have to find a way to get an int orb to bypass the barrier and such, but it does help out a lot having Jack to just wipe out nearly 2 million damage off of his HP. And this is the particular stage where we will be stalling for a very long time, getting our Katakuri special ability back, because we did use it on this particular stage. And yeah, as I said, this is a stage where we can literally stall forever on one of these mobs because they have a 99 hit barrier, or 99 turn barrier. So we can literally stall for 99 turns. They attack us every single turn. And with the healing of Ivankov and Bon Clay, and the healing of the host ship, as well as healing from Barto and Cavendish, / the damage reduction from them, yeah, we can literally infinitely stall here, which is great. So after this bit of stalling occurs, we move on to stage 7, which is going to be against Sheep's Head. Sheep's Head has 2.5 million HP, and he gives you attack down for 3 turns, which again is why we have Nami to remove that. And also, every 2 turns, he will blow away a random character on your team. So definitely take him down as soon as possible. And the thing is the middle right character, once you defeat him, will actually go ahead and get their special cooldowns reduced. So we didn't really need to stall that much on the previous stage, but we wanted to make sure we had the max damage output possible with V2 Katakuri for that final boss stage. Because once we get to that final boss stage, all we need to do is activate the Katakuri special, and that is enough to take down the final boss, which is going to be Jack. Jack has about 5 million HP, 5.5 million HP, and he will seal your friend captain for 6 turns, or special bind your friend captain for 6 turns. So make sure that if you are planning on moving on to the final boss stage, to use your friend captain special, because you can't use it on the final boss stage unless if you have a way to remove special bind on your team. He does have a great barrier as well, so you got to make sure you hit it great before you can start dealing damage to him. And also after the first turn, if he is still alive, he gives you a massive poison. It's like 42,000 damage, so definitely KO him on turn 1 if at all possible. But that is how I beat the 7th stage on GARP Challenge Set 4, and now move on to the final stage. So we finally arrived on the 8th stage of GARP Challenge Set 4. I would highly suggest moving into this dungeon to bring Treasure Map Jack. He's going to be very useful for this fight, particularly on stage 3, when we have to deal with Buggy. Now, Buggy's very annoying because he applies lots of defensive effects, but once Buggy is defeated, he removes all the defensive effects. So it's not really that big of a deal if you can just use Treasure Map Jack special to KO Buggy on stage 3 as we arrive here with the clip. So yeah, he does put up a threshold. I believe he has attack up, there's an immunity buff, like there's just annoying things to deal with here. And as you can see, like looking at this stage, it is quite daunting, but once you activate the special ability of Jack to KO Buggy, the threshold's removed, and you can just, you know, take it easy basically with clearing this stage. Now we are using a friend captain Snake Man, which might seem a bit odd, but it does definitely help out in the long run, because having that strength character on this team is very, very important for you know, a couple of these stages really. Just having the strength character is very nice, but it's nice to also have Barto and Cavendish for their stalling capabilities. V2 Katakuri make the last stage very, very easy. Luffy and Law's a great captain. You know, it's hard trying to fit all these characters onto the same team, but having Snake Man as a friend makes it much, much better. Stage 4 is going to be against the Boa Sisters. Boa Hancock, that is, has about 1.7 million, and the two sisters at the back have about 1.15 million HP. You get 2 turns of burn as well, and you can only use 2 specials per turn for the next 98 turns, but I think once you KO the sisters, the special limiter is removed on your team. You also have to deal with end of turn damage, and also there is something here that like isn't on the stage but will happen anyway, is if you delay this stage, they basically remove the delay off themselves. So don't be wasting your delay specials on this particular stage. Definitely save it for later on or whatever, but basically just don't delay the stage at all. I try and do a little bit of stalling here, but definitely doesn't really work out. I was just trying to get through it as quick as I possibly could for this particular stage, because Boa seemed to be doing a little bit too much damage for my liking, so I move on here. And the next stage is going to be Dracula Meatball, which is on stage 5. Dracula Meatball has about 3.5 million HP, and he will slot seal you for 5 turns. So having the limit break ability of slot bind resistance is very, very nice here. Obviously, Luffy and Law, with their switch effect, can remove slot bind off of themselves, which is again very, very nice to have. And he cuts your health by 90%. And do not activate any sort of healing special, because he will then go ahead and cut your health back by 90%. So yeah, don't use any healing special ability whatsoever on this stage. But this is why we have Corazon as well. Corazon is great for the fact that he can remove a lot of debuffs, as well as heal us by a very significant margin. We do use Snake Man here to give us enough damage output to take on Dracula Meatball, which is fine. And obviously having a matching orb on Katakuri does definitely help out a lot. Stage 6 is going to be against the Supernovas, and they all have 1.35 million HP, so they're not that strong. They each apply annoying effects. So Hawkins will actually go ahead and apply a counter, and that activates below 70% HP. And another really good reason why we use Snake Man on the previous turn is that on this stage, you get your type slots counted as negative for 5 turns. So because we activated Snake Man prior to, we don't get that debuff on this particular stage, which is why Snake Man again is so good as a captain for this particular stage here. Also, I don't know which character does this, but if you activate any sort of special ability that manipulates your orbs, all of your orbs will be transferred into block orbs. So again, I don't know who does that specifically, but that will actually happen. Now, this is a stage where we do quite a bit of stall here. We stall on Apu because he really doesn't do that much damage, and we want to make sure that we can get the Corazon special ability ready for the next stage on stage 7. That's going to be very, very important. So we do a lot of stalling here on Apu, and we move on to the next stage, which is going to be stage 7 against Luffy, Law, and Kinnaman. So once again, previously I did go ahead and cut out a lot of that stalling, just in case if you were wondering, but we stalled for the Corazon special ability, because on this particular stage against Luffy, Law, and Kinnaman, you can see that we get our Despair for 5 turns, which will get reduced down to 2 after the sockets, of course, and we get 2 turns of paralysis. So having Corazon to remove that is going to be really, really good. Now, on this stage, not much actually happens. They all have 2 million HP, which is kind of daunting to look at. But the thing is on turn 3, Kinnaman will deal 25,000 damage to your team, so we definitely want to make sure that we can take down all of the characters aside from Kinnaman before he does activate that, because we don't want to be taking too much damage from the enemy. And once again, we do stall on Kinnaman for the next stage, which is going to be against Smoker and Aokiji, because we do need that Corazon special ability again to remove debuffs once we get there. But again, with this team, stalling isn't really that difficult, because we do have, you know, the healing capabilities of Law if we hit perfects, but also we have the switch ability of Barto and Cavendish, which is just so valuable to have. But as I said, not much really happens on this stage, but it is nice that Luffy and Law do have the switch abilities to switch into type advantage against Luffy and Law on this stage, so that's really useful to have. So now moving on to the 8th stage, which is going to be against Smoker and Aokiji. Both of these guys have 2.3 million HP, and you get given 2 turns of attack down, 2 turns of chain reduction. Your slots are sealed for 7 turns as well, so having those characters once again to remove slot seal, going to be really, really good. And, you know, also having Corazon special ability for the attack down and the chain reduction removal is really useful here. We don't have to stall for the Corazon special ability again, so that's fine. We don't really have to worry about that at all. And like the last stage, which is stage 10, we just activate Katakuri's special ability anyways. So technically for us, like with this team, this is the second last stage effectively, even though stage 10 is the last stage. You know, we're just using Katakuri anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we have to take down this guy. The thing is if you activate a special ability here that reduces their defense, or you activate a chain lock, you get 10 turns of paralysis. So don't do that. Don't do that. And also they have a full poison immunity, so you can't bring like Magellan to just stall on this particular stage. That will not work for this stage at all. And below 50%, Smoker will go ahead and seal or bind 3 crew members for 15 turns. So be very, very careful when Smoker is below 50%. Now moving on to stage 9, which is, for this team, the effective last stage you have to get around with Dofi and Fuji. Both of these guys have 2.5 million HP. There is a great barrier on both of these guys. They have delay immune. Your middle right character is blown away for 3 turns, and your top and middle rows get their special cooldowns rewinded by 2 turns. After turn 3, Fujitora will go ahead and paralyze us for 2 turns. Now you can see we did KO Doflamingo on that turn. It's because we do have the 2x orb boost from the Snake Man, because we did use Snake Man against Smoker and Aokiji, bringing that 2x orb boost into this stage. And obviously once we take down Fujitora, remember we can activate essentially all of our specials here aside from Katakuri, because we need to use him on the last stage. And that's basically it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my playthrough of the latest set of GARP challenges. As I said, I'll be uploading another separate video later talking about the Shanks specific island, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.